Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Here's today's prophecy update. An article released today by the Jerusalem Post states that 43% of French Jews are interested in making Aliyah to Israel. France's Jewish population presently stands at 700,000. This means that around 280,000 are thinking about moving to Israel. Anti-Semitism and a worsening economy have driven many French Jews to seek their fortunes abroad, with significant communities forming in Montreal, London, and other cities. Jewish Agency Chairman Natan Sharansky stated that around 50,000 French Jews asked for information about immigrating during 2014. Conditions for Jews in France have worsened since that time. Chants such as "Hitler is soon coming for you" have been recently heard in the streets of France. The Bible prophesies that a second Jewish Holocaust will soon engulf Europe. The Jews of Europe cannot escape too soon. Well, things are continuing to move in Israel right in the middle of this mini intifada that's being waged against Israel. Some people are calling it the knife intifada. Yet it is producing enough pressure that Israel is looking for ways to counteract it, to cause the tensions to subside, and to seek some kind of solutions. Now, there's evidence that there are people working quietly behind the scenes to perhaps still bring about a peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians. Now, the reason this is so important to those of us who study the prophecies of the Bible is because the Bible actually prophesies a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. Moreover, when that agreement happens, the Bible is very explicit. It will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the battle of Armageddon. Think about it. So when we see signs that there's movement in the background, behind the scenes, that there are talks being held, and that there are certain initiatives being instituted, when we see all these things, then it makes us realize that, sure enough, the prophecy is going to come to pass. Not that we had any doubt. The prophecies always come to pass. Now, this article appeared in the Jerusalem Post. U.S. seeks joint Israeli-Palestinian border patrols as part of future peace. This came out just yesterday. The United States government has prepared a comprehensive defense plan aimed at assuaging Israeli security concerns in the event that Jerusalem agrees to pull back its armed forces from the Jordan Valley as part of a future final status treaty with the Palestinians. Now let's pause just a moment. What's happening here? The United States is working on this plan. It is a U.S. initiative under the administration of President Obama. So President Obama still is holding out dreams that maybe in this final year of his presidency, he could still pull it out. Is there a chance he could? That I can't tell you. But I can tell you the peace agreement is coming. The only question is how will it happen and when. Now, this particular plan envisages a war room that would include Israeli, Palestinian, and American security officials, as well as joint Israeli-Palestinian patrols across the West Bank for an interim period of time until the Palestinian security forces prove their ability to maintain control on the ground. Now, let's make sure we understand this. The West Bank is the area along the Jordan River. Israel has said, we can't withdraw from there. That's our buffer between us and Jordan. And Jordan is somewhat unstable. We can't guarantee that ISIS won't end up just on the other side of the Jordan River. If we pull back to the 67 borders, that would put ISIS a mile or two from our capital of Jerusalem. It would put them right up on the border of our main international airport in Tel Aviv, David Ben Gurion Airport. So when you see these things, obviously these objections have been raised, and now the U.S. is devising a plan to try to relax those objections and to give Israel a sense of security. Now, the Palestinians are not going to sign a deal with Israeli soldiers staying at the Jordan River in the West Bank area. They say that's got to be the new Palestinian state. And yet Israel says, we're not going to put ourselves in a situation where we cannot guarantee our own security, and we're not willing to rely on anyone else for security. Well, now then, the United States has come up with this plan that is being secretly promoted behind the scenes. Let's look at what they plan. This war room that they propose would be responsible for cobbling together all pieces of key intelligence and putting together operational plans on the basis of the incoming information. In other words, they're going to be watching what's going on out there along the banks of Jerusalem and down there in the Jordan Valley. And all of this information would be continually fed into this war room. Now, in the event of pinpoint intelligence indicating hostile activity, a Palestinian team of elite paramilitary forces, which would be trained and funded by the U.S., would be sent to track down and arrest would-be assailants. But if the Palestinians were unable or unwilling to handle the situation, then the task would be carried out by Israeli security personnel. The research and details of this plan were overseen by General John Allen, a Marine four-star general who had commanded U.S. forces in Afghanistan. Its implementation was designed to span a number of years, during which Israel would maintain both an overt and covert presence in the territories. Now let's stop just a moment here. So they're looking at an interim plan, a plan over a number of years. The Bible prophesies an interim plan. The specific interim plan prophesied in the Bible is a 7-year interim plan. So, are we talking about the same thing here? They're saying we can't ensure that the Palestinians can take care of this, but if we have a buffer, let's say it would be 7 years, when we try this out, we have a joint command center, anything happens, the Palestinians go take care of it. If they can't handle it, the Israelis are waiting in the wings to move swiftly to take care of it. In the meantime, if the 7 years passes and the Palestinians have been able to handle everything, then this could instill a sense of security for the Israelis so that they now can trust the new Palestinian state, if there's truly a final peace agreement. Well, as part of this plan, the Jordan Valley frontier would be outfitted with sophisticated surveillance and tracking technology on both the Israeli side and the Jordanian side of the Jordan River. In addition, Israeli and Palestinian security force would conduct separate patrols in designated areas of the West Bank until the latter proves its effectiveness in keeping order on their own. Apprehensive over the stability and long-term viability of the Hashemite kingdom, now that's Jordan, the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, the Israeli government has vowed to maintain overall security control of the Jordan Valley in any future arrangement with the Palestinians. The plan eventually became moot after Israeli-Palestinian peace negotiations broke down in the summer of 2014, triggered by the kidnapping of 3 Jewish teenagers and the subsequent Israel-Hamas war. Now, General Allen, who currently in Israel as a guest of the Institute for National Security Studies, told Channel 2 in Israel that he came to believe the Israeli government sought to weaken the Palestinian Authority security forces while at the same time remaining distrustful of them due to the rampant corruption and ineffective governance that was commonplace in Ramallah, which is the present headquarters for the Palestinian Authority. I had no intention of imposing the plan on the general, on Israel. The general was quoted as telling Channel 2, this was a bridging proposal for a diplomatic plan in the event that agreements between Israel and the Palestinians were not reached and there was a need for a solution to security concerns. Allen said he was not offended by Israeli criticisms of his plan as naive and disconnected from reality. No Israeli saw the plan in its entirety because it wasn't completed and it wasn't presented, he told Channel 2. But the plan is being kept as a security basis for future negotiations with the Palestinians. Okay, so chalk the wheels and keep in mind what we've just gone through. So this is an interim plan that's been produced by a general of the United States of America. So the U.S. is very much involved in what is going on between Israel and Palestinians to this very time. Now we're getting ready to see something else that Israel is doing, and let's see how it meshes with this plan by the United States. This particular article comes from Israel National News, and it's entitled, Israel Begins Construction on Jordan Border Fence. Oh, so we're worried about the Jordanian border in both of these articles, and now Israel is getting ready to build a border fence. And this fence, oh, by the way, is going to be down in southern Israel, down around Eilat. They've had a lot of problems with terror attacks. People come across the Jordan border, make an attack, flee back into Jordan. Well, now Israel's doing something about it. Here's what's going on. Israel has begun construction on a security fence along its border with Jordan. The Defense Ministry announced on Wednesday its latest such barrier intended to keep illegal migrants and terrorists out. It will be the latest security fence built by Israel, including one separating sovereign Israeli territory from Judea, Samaria, and another in the Golan Heights near Syria. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said when it was approved in June that the new fence was a continuation of a 240-kilometer, that's 150 miles, barrier built in 2013 along the Egyptian border, which blocked the entry of illegal migrants into Israel and the various terrorist movements. Now let's pause there for just a moment. What's going on here? Israel had a horrible immigration problem, and many of these coming in had evil intentions. They wanted to perpetrate terrorist attacks on Israel. So Israel has now built 150 miles of fence, especially along the southern border separating Egypt from Israel. Now they're curving it all around to cover the area of Eilat, and it's curved around to cover the territory of Jordan. Now, Jordan is Israel's friend. The government is, that is. But 70% of Jordan is Palestinian, and many of the Palestinians bitterly hate Israel. So Jordan cannot control everything that everyone does, and Israel's had a problem with some of these people coming across the border, especially in the area of Eilat. So now Israel is building an additional fence. This is especially interesting when one of the main campaign promises of some of those running for president is, we will build a fence. And I think it was Donald Trump that said it. If we don't know how to build it, we can get our friend Israel to come and build it for us. Believe me, they know how to build a fence. Since Israel built this system of fences, her illegal immigration has gone almost to zero. I mean, the reduction has been dramatic. I think they were having like over 1,000, and it's dropped to under 30. That's how effective these fences have been. Okay, let's go on. This barrier is intended to protect Israeli citizens against any security threat coming from Jordan. Ariel Hafez, a spokesman for the ministry, told AFP on Wednesday. The barrier will be, this particular one, will be 19 miles long between the resort city of Eilat and the site of the sands of Samar, and will cost 300 million shekels, which is about $75 million, according to the government's statement. Okay, so let's think about this. Israel is moving to protect herself, while at the same time the U.S. is coming up with a plan to possibly help in case there would be some kind of a peace agreement. Now, here's the next step being taken. Israel is trying to figure out how to bring calm to Jerusalem. And Israel's proposal is to ask the PLO to form a community police force in East Jerusalem. East Jerusalem is where most of the Arabs live. This comes from the Jerusalem Post. Israel suggested to the PLO in East Jerusalem that they establish a special community police unit in order to preserve law and order in the refugee camps in Arab neighborhoods, including preventing attacks against Israelis, according to a report in the Kuwaiti daily Al Jarida on Wednesday. Now let's stop a moment. They have a lot of problems from these refugee camps. Why are there still refugee camps? These are people who fled from their homes as a result of the War of Independence in 1948. Here we are 70 years later, and we've still got people living in refugee camps. Now, about the same amount of Jews had to flee from Arab countries as fled from Israel. The Arabs fled from Israel to Arab territories. The Jews fled from Arab territories to Israel. Israel assimilated all of her refugees, and they now are productive citizens working in Israel. But the Palestinians, the Arabs, didn't want to assimilate their refugees. They kept them alive as a political football. As a matter of fact, it's my understanding that there is a law against them leaving refugee camps without permission. So they've kept them here, and the refugee camps have become a hotbed for terrorism, for hatred against the Jewish people. So that's the situation as it exists. Consequently, a lot of these people that are knifing people, they're from refugee camps. They have nothing to live for anyway. They have no future. So why not go over there and stab an Israeli? And then when you get killed, you go straight to paradise with 72 dark-eyed virgins, and you have eternal life, and you will forever reap the praise of Allah. Now that's what they're taught to believe. Consequently, they do. So Israel, wanting to put down the present tension, is now proposing to the Palestinians, look, we will turn over the security in the area of East Jerusalem to you, where the concentration of Arab populations is, and we won't come in there without your permission. So you're going to be given a level of autonomy. The paper quotes Israeli sources as saying that in return for the establishment of the local police force, Israel would cease to send its security forces into old city neighborhoods, the Shuafat refugee camp, and Anada without prior coordination with the active PLO forces in the area. The sources said that Israel intends to grant Palestinians in Jerusalem and the surrounding neighborhoods autonomy, insecurity, and organizational arrangements in cooperation with Israel. Sources in East Jerusalem say that they are currently reviewing the Israeli proposal and they plan to pass it on to the Palestinian leadership and PA President Mahmoud Abbas. Now, are we hearing right? What this is telling us is that Israel's making this proposal to give them a level of autonomy in East Jerusalem. Does this then mean that Israel is going to redivide Jerusalem, creating East Jerusalem under the Palestinian control? The Palestinians want East Jerusalem as the capital of their projected Palestinian state. Is that what this means? Well, not for the near future, because the Bible is explicitly clear that even when a Palestinian state is created, which will happen as a result of the coming peace agreement, Israel is going to be unwilling to surrender Jerusalem. Apparently, they're going to put Jerusalem under an interim agreement, like perhaps the security agreement out there along the Jordan River. So again, it gives us a view of an interim arrangement. The Bible tells us that the Antichrist will confirm Israel's right to exist for a 7-year period. It'll be an interim arrangement. And then at the end of the 7 years, apparently the international community is going to pass a resolution that Israel must now withdraw from East Jerusalem and turn it over to the Palestinians as their capital. Let's continue on. The newspaper claims that the Israeli initiative came as a part of the Netanyahu government's efforts to minimize Palestinian attacks in the Jerusalem area and to decrease tensions in the holy city. An Israeli security source described the move as official Israeli recognition of the division of Jerusalem, despite the fact that successive Israeli governments have said that both the eastern and western areas of the city were part of Israel's eternal capital. So this one Israeli source says that this is going to end up being de facto recognition of the Palestinian right to East Jerusalem. So another huge mistake apparently being made. The article goes on to estimate that the move would bring humiliation for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's right-wing government, which has been dealing with a mini intifada since October 2015 that has resulted in the murders of 25 Israelis and an American stabbing, car ramming, attacks, and shootings. In the same period, 148 Palestinians, most of whom were attackers, have been killed. So around 29 Israelis have died, 148 Palestinians have died, and it keeps the tensions ratcheted up, and the news is worldwide. Every time one dies, it's worldwide news. We can have a triple murder in New York and we never know about it, but if one person is stabbed and they don't even die, it still becomes front page news. Okay. Now, let's add a little more heat to the fire, because now then, Donald Trump is pledging to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. This comes out in today's Jerusalem Post. Donald Trump said he would move the United States Embassy to Jerusalem. Now, any nation on earth has their embassy in Jerusalem. They all keep them in Tel Aviv, sending a message that Jerusalem is not regarded as Israeli territory by the international community. Trump went on to say they want it in Jerusalem. The frontrunner among Republican presidential candidates said in an interview posted Tuesday by the Brody File, a Christian broadcast network show. Well, I'm for that 100%, Trump said. We are for that 100%. David Brody, the CBN journalist, had asked Trump whether he agreed with GOP rivals, including Senators Ted Cruz from Texas and Marco Rubio from Florida, who have pledged to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem once elected. Trump's agreement seemed to be an about-face from remarks in December at the Republican Jewish Coalition, when the real estate magnate refused to commit to recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's undivided capital. Speaking over booze at that event, Trump said it was foolish to harden positions ahead of talks. You can't go in with the attitude, we're going to shove it down your throat. You've got to go in and get it and do it nicely so that everybody's happy, he said. Congress passed a law in 1995 mandating the move of the embassy to Jerusalem, but allowed the president a waiver. Each president since then has routinely exercised the waiver, citing the national security interest of the United States, calling U.S. President Barack Obama the worst thing that has ever happened to Israel for negotiating the recent Iran nuclear deal. Trump pledged loyalty to Israel. I will be very good to Israel, he said. People know that. I have so many friends from Israel. I have won so many awards from Israel. I was even given the Grand Marshal for the Israeli Day Parade a few years ago. So I will back Israel. Interesting words from the leading contender for the Republican nomination. Now the next question is, will he move the embassy? And if elected, how soon will he actually do it? It's all part of the prophecies of your Bible.
This trip was a special experience for me. My study of the Bible has been enhanced after seeing Israel. The guides and planners for this trip did an excellent job of taking care of us. The hotels and furnished meals were top-notch. This is a trip of a lifetime. Sign up and go. Bert from Arizona. Come with us as we walk in the footsteps of Jesus and learn about the end-time story on our Israel Holy Roman Empire tour. The Bible prophesies that the Antichrist and false prophet will come out of the Holy Roman Empire. We will be touring the capital of the European Union in Brussels, Belgium, where the rebirthed Holy Roman Empire was fulfilled. We will also visit the Charlemagne Cathedral in Aachen, Germany, who was the first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. We will be touring the Hall of the Caesars in Frankfurt, Germany, and much more. When we get to Israel, we will see the Mount of Olives, the Garden Tomb, the Temple Institute, Bethlehem, the Western Wall, the Sea of Galilee, the Mount of the Beatitudes, and more. Irvin and Judy hope you will come with them and experience the Israel Holy Roman Empire tour to share one of their favorite places on earth with you. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com for more information.
If your radio station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com to continue to listen to today's broadcast.
We will be taking your calls in this segment of the program. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME. That's 877-363-8463. Now, I've spent the last half hour or so talking about the behind-the-scenes developments of people trying to solve what appears to be the unsolvable. So many people, so many presidents have attempted to conclude a peace agreement between Palestinians and Israelis, but it hasn't worked. All the way from Reagan to Bush to Clinton to Bush to Obama. There's been president after president try. And as you look at it, you may say, well, it's the unsolvable Gordian knot. But the Bible says that there is going to be a peace agreement. It is going to happen. Now, the likely time for it to happen will either be yet under President Obama, and I don't think that he's going to make it, or else under the next president. We have 3 leading candidates. As of right now, the polls say that Trump, Cruz, and Rubio are the 3 leading candidates of the Republican Party. So the odds are extremely high that one of those 3 will be the Republican candidate for president. Hillary Clinton's candidacy appears to be weakened and probably not very viable. We don't know that for sure. A lot of things can happen. Nevertheless, when you've got the 3 leading candidates, Rubio, Cruz, and Trump, all 3 of them have now said, I will move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Now, when you deal with Jerusalem, you're dealing with the heartbeat of God. God said, I will put my name there. God personally picked Jerusalem. When he told Abraham 4,000 years ago, I am going to give you this land for you and your descendants after you forever. And then, after his son Isaac was born, the promised child, he told him to take his promised child Isaac to a mountain which I will show thee. And he led Abraham to Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah today is known as the Temple Mount. It's the heart and the soul of Jerusalem. So God picked Jerusalem. Then 1,000 years after that, when Israel had sinned and God had sent plagues among the people, David cried out to God and said, what do I do to stop this plague? And the Lord told him, go buy the threshing floor of Araunah, which was Mount Moriah. So David bought Mount Moriah, the Temple Mount, in 1000 BC. He paid full price for it. It's all recorded in the Bible. So when he bought the Temple Mount, he bought this place, the city of Jerusalem. Well, here we are today, 2,000 years later, and in the presidential campaign of the mightiest nation on earth, the key issue, at least one of the key issues, is the control of Jerusalem. The entire world community recognizes the capital of every nation on earth. Every nation gets to choose its capital. And the international community recognizes it. And they do for every single nation on earth except for one. They do not accept Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Now, you might think, well, this is just a political situation. And it certainly looks that way. But it's much more than that. Because God said in the Old Testament, and matter of fact, he said it 37 times concerning Jerusalem, I will put my name there forever. Okay, so God's name is there forever. I'll put my name there. Satan heard that and said, well, if that's where you want your name, guess where I want mine? In Jerusalem. Today, there are 2 heathen mosques standing on the Temple Mount. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, and actually the Dome of the Rock is a shrine, not really a mosque. Nevertheless, the Muslim world has occupied the Temple Mount. And yet the Bible specifically prophesies that the Jews will soon build their temple there. So when we have our presidential candidates, and if in fact this peace agreement's going to come, the highly likely time for it to be will be during the next presidential cycle. I mean, it looks almost sure to me, although I cannot tell you because sometimes prophetic events slam on the brakes and string out. Nevertheless, we have never, ever had 3 candidates, prominent candidates, saying, I'm moving the embassy to Jerusalem. But that's what these 3 are saying right now. It appears there's going to be movement. Now, Donald Trump, the first time he was asked, he vacillated somewhat. He said, you don't tell people what you will do or don't do going into negotiations. You leave yourself room for maneuverability. However, Mr. Ted Cruz, who worked on the George W. Bush campaign, he heard George W. Bush say, I will move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. He also watched as George W. Bush then refused to do it 2 different times, 2 different terms as president during the entire 8 years. He forgot about it. Once he won the election, once he won the votes of the conservatives, then he sold them down the river and never did move the embassy to Jerusalem. Well, now then Ted Cruz comes along and he says, I will move the embassy to Jerusalem, and I won't just tell you that, I will do it. And apparently he was harking back to the promise of George W. Bush, which he failed to fulfill. So now we've got Rubio, Cruz, and Trump. And don't forget, Donald Trump has 2 Jewish grandchildren. His daughter is married to a Jew, and I have friends in Israel who say when they go to celebrate the Jewish holy days, as Jews do, they go to Jerusalem, that they have seen her there many times. So Donald Trump has an extremely vested interest in guarding the Jewish people. Let me just pause a moment to tell you, we have a brand new DVD called America's God-Given Destiny. And what I'm talking about right now has everything to do with America's God-given destiny. We do have a destiny, and I show in this DVD what that destiny is. I don't just give an opinion. I show you from the Bible why I believe. Now, I'm going to tell you what the destiny is, but I'm not going to give you all the proofs because that's in the DVD. But the destiny of Israel is to protect, the destiny of the United States is to protect Israel in these end times. And it is going to happen. If you'd like to hear the whole story, then I invite you to get America's God-Given Destiny. But let me tell you, there's 3 different ways you can get it. One way is we have a fund called Another Jewish Holocaust Fund. There's 1.6 million Jews in Europe that need to get out fast because there's another Holocaust coming. We want to help them get out. For $1,000, we can get a Jew out of Europe or any place else in the world, get them to Israel, retrain them, assimilate them into Jewish society. That's by giving them 5 months of housing once they get to Israel and teaching them the Hebrew language. So for $1,000, we can do that. For each of you that give $1,000, we will help the Jewish people make that Aliyah or immigration to Israel. Now, if you do that as our gift of appreciation to you, you will get the physical DVD with America's God-Given Destiny. And I will tell you, it includes a beautiful song just written for this DVD by Allison Huntley and sung by Allison. It is beautiful. It is moving. You'll get the DVD, America's God-Given Destiny. You will receive also a letter addressed to the Jewish people you're going to help, and you can sign the letter, and we will hand it to them. And then you will get a piece of artwork depicting the prophecy of the Bible, which specifically says Israel, God's destiny for the United States is to protect and guard Israel. You will get a piece of artwork depicting that prophecy. So you get 3 things when you donate $1,000. Now, if you can't do that, but you would like to do $500, you still get the physical DVD with Allison's song on it. But now we don't want to leave anybody out because we want everyone to hear this, America's God-given destiny. You won't get the physical DVD, you won't get the artwork, you won't get the letter that you can personally send to the person you're sponsoring. But for any donation, you will be able to download digitally America's God-given destiny. So I'm urging every single one of you, whatever you've got to do, if you can do the $1,000 donation, that would be wonderful. And you would be helping the people who gave us our Messiah and gave us our Bible. And that's so very important. But if you can't do that right now, I still want you to hear America's God-given destiny. It's a little bit over an hour presentation, plus Allison's song. And let me tell you, I've had so many people say, after listening to that message, now I have hope in the future of the United States of America. You'll find out what's going to happen. The prophecies tell us. Okay, so what do you have to do? Well, you can either call us or go online and donate the $1,000 or the $500, or you can go online and donate any amount. Just go to endtime.com, click on the donate button, and there'll be a page come up with your password so that you can download America's God-given destiny for any amount, any donation. I want to get to the phones now, and let's go first of all to South Carolina. Emily is calling. Hello, Emily.
Hey, Pastor Baxter. I was wondering if you had heard about the 15-year-old Jewish boy. His name is Nathan, and he died and had a vision. But anyway, he came back, and he was, I guess he told, a rabbi found out about it, and he was giving his, explaining what he saw to numerous rabbis. So anyway, this one rabbi, was sitting with them asking him questions, and he was talking, but he was saying that he saw that they're basically, in the end time stuff, that there's going to be a war that breaks out. It will last for 2 weeks, but the IDF will only hold out for 2 days, and the war will be with Iran and the UN. He says 70 nations are involved in it, Russia, South Korea.
Emily, we're up against a break. I brought you on sort of late. If you want to hold on, you can continue after the break. You're listening to End of the Age, and the number to reach us here, 877-END-TIME, or call our operators, 1-800-END-TIME. We'll be back in just a moment. Who would have thought it, that the Berlin Wall is right there in the prophecies of the Bible? I'm holding here a chunk of the Berlin Wall. A friend of mine was in Berlin the night that the wall fell, November 9, 1989. He cut a piece of the wall for himself, twice this large. He was kind enough to cut it in half. He had read my book, A Message for the President, in which I had stated 3 years before this that the Berlin Wall would come down, the two Germanys would be reunited, and that would be the event that would mark the beginning of the one world governmental system called the New World Order. Now we're studying right now, how did I know that the Berlin Wall was going to come down? Where is this in the Bible, and how did I know that would be the event that would trigger the New World Order, the one world governmental system?
Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME to order The Berlin Wall in Bible Prophecy.
Jesus said this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all of the world as a witness to all nations, and then the end will come. This scripture continues to inspire us as we share the Understanding the End Time series with the world. But at one point we faced a problem. Much of the world doesn't speak English. That's why we produced the Understanding the End Time series in the 8 major languages of the world: English, Spanish, French, Italian, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. Many of you out there helped us make this translation project a reality, and we thank you with all our hearts, because now we can truly be a part of preaching the gospel of the kingdom to all the world. If there is someone in your life that speaks one of these languages and needs to hear the End Time message, get them the Understanding the End Time series, and you too can be a part of preaching the gospel of the kingdom to this world.
End Time is the number to call if you want to be on the air with me. And Emily, did you stay with us?
Yes. So the meat of it, though, this was a 15-year-old Jewish boy who supposedly died and had a vision of end-time prophecy, what's going to happen in the future. And he said, this was interesting. He said that Har Hametz, I can't even pronounce it, but apparently I looked it up and it means Mount of Olives. He said the next to Jerusalem will split in two, and he said that. Let's see. Hang on. I wrote this down so I'd have it. So he said that the rabbi was saying, "What is it? A bomb?" And he goes, "No." He says, "What?" When he goes, "No." He says, "There's over there. You know where the graves are." He says there will be two men that will raise up, and as he does that, he puts his hands toward the up, right? And he looks up, and he says these two men will raise up, one over here and one over here, and at that time, the Mount of Olives, he called it something else in Jewish, will split in two, and Messiah will be there. So anyway, this is a kid who's 15. He's never been to Hebrew school, because the rabbi said to him, where have you studied? Number one, that's Revelation 11. That's not even, they don't even study that. And number two, he quoted a couple of, he saw a couple of things that were, the rabbi then quoted Jeremiah and Zechariah of what he saw as well. So they really think that this kid saw, is telling the truth. But they were asking him, where did you have your training? And he says, and the rabbi said, no, he didn't have this such and such schooling. And they're like, how do you know this stuff then? How do you know? So they kept questioning him. And finally, the rabbi had said, listen, what I told you before, apparently this has happened before where people see this, thing where time doesn't mean anything when you're in this air, whatever they called it, but basically when you die, time doesn't mean anything. It's and they learn things that we study for years, they learn in just a few minutes. But anyway, I thought it was very interesting, especially since he mentioned the witnesses and the Mount of Olives splitting, and also the war was going to be with Gog, and I don't know if he understood the timing of everything, but he was saying that this war is supposed to start in just, he says it's imminent, and the rabbi says, what do you mean imminent? He says, if there's no time, you don't understand what time is. How do you know it's imminent? He says it's going to be in just the next few months. Now this.
Emily, let me break it on. Emily, let me break on you here. I am going to have to go, but where do you get this information from?
All you have to do is go to YouTube and then just type in 15-year-old boy, a Jewish boy, end-time prophecy, or end-time, and it'll come up.
Okay. Thank you. I got to let you go because I want to get to some others before we're out of time. But thank you very much. And most everything that Emily said, it appears to accurately track with what the Bible actually prophesies. So I haven't gone there personally and seen this yet, but I do plan to do that. So interesting. Let's go now to John, calling from Louisiana. Hello, John.
Thank you, Pastor Baxter. Just wanted to ask you a question about Daniel, the timing of Daniel chapter 12 and verse 1. I watched America's God-Given Destiny last night, and while that scripture was on the screen, the parts that you had highlighted, the very next phrase at the end of that verse, it says, shall be delivered everyone, everyone that shall be found written in the book. Then it goes into verse 2, and many of them that slept in the dust of the earth. Should that all be read together, and we just take that to mean we're specifically speaking of the Battle of Armageddon?
In Daniel chapter 12, verse number 1, it says, Michael shall stand up, and then shall be a time of trouble such as never been before. When you read on down to verse number 7, it tells you how long this time of trouble will last. And the voice said, how long till the end of these wonders? And he said, until a time, times, and a half. That's always terminology in the Bible for 3.5 years. A time being 1 year times 2 years, half a time, half of a year. So this prophecy is foretelling the Great Tribulation, which will then last the next 3.5 years. It also states that when this begins, an angel will stand 1 foot on the water and 1 foot on the land and raise his hand to heaven, declaring that delay shall be no longer, or that time shall be no more. That exact same incident happens in Revelation chapter number 10, and it happens exactly 3.5 years before Armageddon and the second coming. So these are the exact same prophecies of Daniel chapter number 12, also in Revelation chapter number 10. So that's the timing. Now, when it talks about those will be saved, all that are written in the book, now that's referring to people who will be saved during the Great Tribulation period. Remember in Revelation chapter number 7, verse number 9, it says, I saw a great multitude that no man can number, and they came out of every kindred, nation, and tongue. And John was asked, what are these? He said, I don't know. The answer came back, these are they that came out of great tribulation, have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. There will be revival during the Great Tribulation period among both Gentile and Jew. The earlier part of Daniel 7 talks about 144,000 Jews being saved. So the point is, there is going to be revival sweeping through Israel, but it will also spill out and be a worldwide revival, and that's what's being dealt with here in Daniel chapter 12.
Okay. Good deal. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you, John. Interesting material, by the way. Let's go now to Mary, calling from Florida. Hello, Mary.
Hi, Irvin. Can you hear me?
I hear you very well, Mary.
It's nice talking to you. Irvin, can you please explain to me Zechariah chapter 1, verses 18 through 21? Thank you so much, Irvin.
I sure will. This whole chapter is devoted with the exile of Judea, of the people of Judah, down into Babylon. And if you'll notice there, let me give you the verse number 12. Then the angel of the Lord answered and said, O Lord of hosts, how long wilt thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah, against which thou hast indignation these 70 years? That gives us our time frame, because Jeremiah had prophesied to the people of Israel, you're going to go into captivity in Babylon as your judgment for your backsliding, and you will be down there for 70 years. That's exactly this time frame. 70 years is 70 years. 60, a score is 20. 70 is 60 plus 10 is 70. So it was prophesied they would be down there. Now notice this vision was given to Zechariah in the 2nd year of Darius. Daniel had many great visions in the 1st year of Darius. So God's Spirit was very active during this time, and this particular prophecy was fulfilled when Cyrus, the king of the Medes and the Persians, decreed that the Jewish people could return. After the 70 years of punishment was finished, he decreed they could return and build their temple. They did return. They did rebuild their temple. And that's what this first chapter of Zechariah is talking about at this time. Okay.
Thank you, Irvin.
You're welcome, Mary. Let's go now to Jim, calling from Indiana. Hello, Jim.
Yeah, hello. I was just figuring that since 1948, 2018 will be 70 years. Do you think there's any prophetic significance to 2018?
Well, every year from now on, Jim, is going to be significant. However, if you're trying to say that the prophecy of Jesus, where he said, this generation shall not pass until all things be fulfilled, on the strength of that, some people have predicted that the rapture will happen in 2018. That cannot happen because there are too many things yet to be fulfilled. The final 7 years hasn't even started yet, and the rapture happens at the end of the final 7 years. Could the 7 years begin in 2018? It could. It could begin in 2016 or 2017. We're getting very close to that time, but I cannot tell you for sure when it's going to begin. But, so it could begin in 2018, but as far as everything being fulfilled, like Jesus was mentioning it there, because a lot of people teach when Jesus said, when you see the fig tree putting forth its buds, then you know summer's nigh. Likewise, when you see all these things, then know that this generation shall not pass until everything's fulfilled. Well, when it talks about that, it's talking about when you see the things I've prophesied here in the 24th chapter of Matthew. It is not talking about the rebirth of the nation of Israel. A lot of people say, well, the fig tree is a symbol of Israel. No, it's not. The olive tree is the symbol of Israel. But Jesus was merely saying, when you see the fig tree in another passage, he says, when you see all the trees budding, you know that summer is nigh. And so it's when we see the prophecies of Matthew 24 coming to pass. We actually have a DVD called This Generation Shall Not Pass. We describe what the signs are in Matthew 24 that will let us know that we are the generation that won't pass until the second coming of Jesus Christ. But to teach that he must come by the 70 years from 1948, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know the rapture won't happen, and I'm just thinking it does seem like maybe something significant will happen. I mean...
Well, but Jesus did not say the generation that sees the rebirth of Israel. He says the generation that sees these things. The rebirth of Israel is not foretold in Matthew 24. What is foretold in Matthew 24? The abomination of desolation. The people of Judea having to run for their lives. The time of the Great Tribulation. Those are the things that Jesus was referring to when he said, when you see these things, then know that this generation shall not pass until everything is fulfilled. Well, listen, gotta let you go. We're out of time one more time. Don't forget, if you're not yet a partner with Endtime Ministries, we need you in 2016. Jump on board. We've got a lot to do for the Lord. Time is running out. Where there's unity, there's strength. Become a partner with us. We'd appreciate it so very much. Call 1-800-END-TIME. 1-800-363-8463.
End of the Age is a production of Endtime Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Endtime Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.